Here's a few things I don't hear people saying about the autism acetaminophen paper referenced by the White House. First thing I noticed is the authors paid $3,500 for this paper to get published. I found this out by going to the scientific journal where it was published and looking at the submission guidelines. If you don't already know this, open access journals are notorious for being pay-to-play and quantity over quality compared to traditional scientific journals. So one of the first things I do when I see a controversial paper in the news is I look at where it was published and how much the authors paid to publish it. If they paid a lot, I find myself wondering if they are compensating for a lower quality paper. The second thing I noticed was, why the navigation guide methodology? Typically, when you do a comprehensive review in science, you try to reference a common guideline like PRISMA to show your work. But I have never, in the dozens or maybe hundreds of review papers I've read over my career, encountered this navigation guide methodology. That doesn't mean it's bad, but why this method though? Third thing I want to say is, why the focus on autism and acetaminophen specifically? Of the 46 studies identified for the review, only 8 had anything to do with autism, and the rest talked about other NDDs. This means that according to this paper, the alleged effects of acetaminophen are nonspecific, which in psychology refers to something that's not uniquely connected to one thing. So the data is not super helpful for making a syndrome-specific claim. If we zoom out even further from this paper, there's plenty of other work showing that prenatal substance exposure in general is associated with lots of different child outcomes. I provide a summary of some of this work in my paper here. Last thing, why don't they talk about magnitude? Usually in public science communication, you'll hear something like, your odds of having this syndrome go up X% with Y risk factor. Typically for this study, you'll find that in the form of an odds ratio, hazard ratio, effect size, etc. But the authors here opted out of quantitative analysis because the effects of the different studies they reviewed were too different. This is an odd thing to say because someone else already did pool these different findings together and gave us an idea of the magnitude of this association. This then leaves me wondering why they chose to merely state how many papers found an association in a particular direction instead of talking about the actual magnitude of these associations. I don't especially want to make my channel about politics, but I think it's worth emphasizing that a lot of this research existed before politicians started to talk about it. And until we get high quality and high magnitude effects for significant public health concerns, I think it's okay to say we don't know yet. I honestly wish more people would. Hope this was useful to you.